Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're gonna be talking all about everything you need to know about ditch lights for your 4th gen Ford Ranger. In this video, we're gonna be covering how to actually install our ditch brackets on it, how to do the wiring, why we decided to do the Flex Air 3s instead of any other KC light, and also a little bit about ditch lights in general, what they're used for, and different applications. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so before we get into step number 1, let's talk a little bit about everything you're gonna need to install our ditch brackets on your 4th gen Ford Ranger. Starting right off, you're gonna need the ditch brackets. Obviously, that's going to be the most important part. Ditch brackets as well as some lights. So those are the two most important things you're going to be needing. Moving from left to right, you're going to need a couple 10 millimeters. So a 10 millimeter socket, a ratchet, as well as a wrench is going to be crucial for getting these puppies installed. The other tool you're going to need is a plastic trim removal tool. There's one little piece of plastic we have to remove in order to get the cowl off. So you are going to need a plastic trim tool, and then you're also going to need a sharp knife of some sort, a razor blade, or anything else that can cut through the plastic. We're gonna have to make a little notch to clear the brackets. Okay, so now on this right-hand side, we have a lot of the wiring gizmos and gadgets here. So depending on how you're actually gonna be wiring this, whether you're gonna be using the OEM, our switch system, or you're gonna be putting it into like an outfitter system or any kind of switch pros or anything like that, it's gonna depend on the tools and accessories you're actually gonna need to make that happen. However, it's always handy and it's always a good idea to have some basic wiring tools like wire strippers and some crimpers, along with some extra wire, which I don't have on the table, some butt connections, some ring terminals, and some zip ties. Those are gonna get you by 9 times out of 10 on most of your wiring projects. And the other thing that I always recommend is a metal snake. This is really handy if you have to get to the firewall or if you have to route by the headlights or anything and route down and do some weird loop-de-loops. This makes the job a lot easier. Along with some electrical tape, you should be all set. Okay, the last thing that I almost forgot about is blue painter's tape. This is gonna be very, very crucial when it comes to actually placing the bracket. This is gonna protect your paint and your hood to make sure that while you're installing everything, there's no scuffs or damages. Okay. All right, so that's everything you need to install these things. Let's go ahead and get into step number 1. All right, so step number 1, we're actually gonna be getting everything ready over here to place our bracket. So this bracket, instead of your standard hood mounted bracket, this actually mounts to the fender itself on these little bolts down here. So step number 1 is actually gonna be removing this little plastic piece. There is a little plastic retainer clip. We're gonna go ahead and pry that off with our trim removal tool. And that's the first step. Once we get that off, the whole thing just slides right out. All right, so once you get that plastic cowl off, now the next step is we're gonna go ahead and start taping this puppy down. So we're gonna add some painter's tape to this little inside corner here. We wanna make sure we wrap it over that edge. This is, again, just to protect it from when we're placing our bracket. It is metal, and I don't know if you guys know this, but metal on metal, if you add paint, usually means the paint loses. So I just want to make sure we don't scratch this. We're also going to do the same on the hood right here in this corner. So this is a super common place for scratches and stuff to happen when someone's installing ditch lights. So it doesn't really matter what vehicle or application. If it gets mounted in this little cowl area, it is a good idea to just throw some painter's tape. There's no such thing as too much unless one day there is a painter's tape shortage. So go ahead and just place a ton of painter's tape. Okay, so with everything taped up, the next step is going to be removing the 2 bolts or loosening the 2 bolts you need in order to actually mount the bracket. So the way this bracket actually mounts is there's 2 bolts on the fender that are on the downside. That forwardmost bolt, you're going to go ahead and remove that completely. Don't touch the rear bolt. Go ahead and remove that front bolt. Then there's a bolt right here by the corner of the windshield. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and loosen that just enough to be able to slide in the bracket. With that, you wanna be really, really careful when you're actually doing that to make sure you do not hit the corner of this glass. Unfortunately, the weakest part of this entire windshield is that corner piece. If you tap it hard enough, that will send a huge crack all the way starting here across your windshields, which you do not want. So I recommend adding some of that painter's tape to that corner there and being very, very careful and very delicate with that bolt. But you're gonna go ahead and loosen that bolt up, remove that front one, and then we're gonna wiggle in our bracket. So let's go and get that done. All right, so I went ahead and got that top bolt loosened and that front bolt removed. I will say it was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be pretty easy to be able to get a ratcheting 10 mil in there and go ahead and ratchet it off, as well as this top bolt. I knew it was close to the glass, but I didn't realize how difficult it would actually be to get that bolt off. So I ended up going to different tools. So the 10mm ratchet just didn't, or wrench, sorry, just did not work for that lower bolt. I just couldn't get it a good thing. I was chewing up this foam, so I decided to put it away and try something different. So for the bottom bolt, what I ended up doing was I have these super low profile 1/2-inch sockets that are used for an impact. But they have these little things so I can actually throw on a 7/8 wrench and get extremely low profile, but I needed the torque. I just couldn't get enough torque with a little tiny 10mm wrench, so that's what I was able to do to get this thing broken. Once it was broken, I was able to just kind of do it by hand. That was not a huge deal. The top one was a whole other issue of just not being able to get anything wrapped completely around. So sockets were out of the question. The 10mm wrench, I was able to get it loosened. However, I only have about that much arc in order to get it going, so I wasn't able to really get much leverage on it or just movement. So what I ended up doing was I ended up getting some these channel locks, and I used that. I was able to just come up from the top and just kind of twist it, go very, very, very slowly. There's no need to go quickly on that one. You are very close to that corner piece of glass, like I mentioned earlier. So I thought I'd throw in those little tips there, but it is kind of difficult to get that top bolt loosened and that front bolt out. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. All right, so once you have everything loosened up, you have that bolt removed, that top one loosened, the next step is gonna be actually placing the bracket. So this part's a little tricky, and you do have to put a bit of force on the fender. It feels a little weird, but it will eventually go in. So the trick is you kind of need to snake this in. This is again why we put the tape here, because you are gonna basically be resting against this a little bit. Once you get it in there, what you need to do is you need to basically twist it in here. There is that bolt with the washer. You need to make sure, this is how you can first test to make sure that that bolt is loose enough. You need to be able to fit that bracket underneath that loose bolt. That's why there's a notch cut out in it. And you're gonna have to wiggle it, push some force into it. Eventually it will slide right in. Once it slides in, you can start putting in the bottom bolt and then tighten the top bolt. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play with this a little bit and get this nice and tightened and get it in there nice and good. All right, so once everything is mounted up, the next part is gonna be actually taking those plastic cowls, and we're gonna cut these in order to give some relief space so we can actually, the bracket fits in there. So on the instructions, we actually have a nice little diagram of where to cut it with some measurements as well. So all I did was copy that with a Sharpie, and now I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. I'm gonna try this with just a regular knife. However, a razor blade probably is gonna be the best approach. So you might see me jump to a razor blade. If you have like a plastic cutting tool or anything like that with a diamond blade, you can also use that, but it's messy, so I don't prefer to. So we're gonna go ahead and try that. Follow the instructions on the actual paper. When you do this, it does give you the exact cut lines. You do not cut this little middle notch. You only cut around that lip and that rear little retainer clip. All right, so we have the cowls cut. So now what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and removing all of this painter's tape, because we have to make sure those cowls sit underneath the little thing. So once you get them clearance, you're gonna go ahead and get them back into place. Nothing fancy here. We do have a hole, clearance hole in the bracket for that one center little pin in there. So just make sure that you don't cut that off when you're doing it, and it will slide right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those installed after I remove this tape, and then we will talk a little bit about the FlexAir 3s. So we went ahead ahead and mounted the FlexAir 3s on the A-pillars, the next step of the whole process is gonna be wiring. So this part is gonna differ depending on how you decide to wire it. Whether you're wiring to an upfitter switch, to the OEM switch, to like a Switch Pros or something like that, it's all gonna differ slightly. However, connecting the two lights into one harness, that's gonna stay the same no matter what. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is, I think I found the best way to do this. So I'm gonna give it a shot and then kind of give you guys an update once I get everything routed. The idea is gonna be running it underneath this front cowl. There's just a bunch of push pins in here, so I went ahead and removed them all, and this lifts up just enough, and there's a hole right here that I think I can, just squish all of the wire. As long as it's nice and tight, it should be just fine to sit right in there. So we're gonna go ahead and get that done, and then I'll give you guys a little synopsis on if it worked or not. So the two lights are connected. We ran everything through the cowl. It ended up working perfect. There's a little notch here. We were able to get all the wires through, so that worked perfect. The wires are super hidden. I'm super stoked on that. Now it's time for the rest of the harness. So this is the part where it's gonna split up and be a little different depending on how you do it. Again, we are gonna be using a switch system on this vehicle, so it's gonna be a little bit different than if you're using the OEM or upfitter or whatever. We're gonna be actually deleting the relay on this. So this huge harness, all we're gonna actually do is we have to just get it to here. So we're gonna cut this right here. All of this extra harness is gonna be pretty useless for us. What we're doing here is we're gonna be basically cutting this right before the relay. If you were gonna keep the OEM harness, or you were gonna plug this into a switch system that didn't have a big enough fuse, then you're gonna wanna make sure you keep the relay and wire it as it says in the instructions. Ground to ground, this yellow wire to your battery, and this trigger system to either your switch system or our included switch system. But since we are wiring this directly to a switch, we're gonna go ahead and cut this right below the relay. These 10 gauge. All right, so now that everything's installed, let's talk a little bit about ditch lights and their form and function and why you should run them and why we recommend running them and how they fit into the 360 lighting of this, in particular, Ford Ranger. Okay, so ditch lights or A-pillar lights, whatever you want to call them, serve two different functions. The old school function was going to be more in the racing world when you needed some eye-level lighting. So they'd put huge spot beams on here facing forward, so it's that eye-level lighting. It was really, really nice in race applications with a big spot beam. However, most applications these days, they're not using it for racing. They're using it on more overland style builds or slower rock crawling or even just fun trail riding rigs. The reason most people run these is because they make really, really great peripheral lighting. So they call them ditch lights because when you're turning into a ditch or you want to see inside of the ditch on the left-hand or right-hand side of you, if you have ditch lights faced outwards at that 30-degree kick, facing a little bit more down than you'd think, you're gonna light up all your peripheral on your right and left-hand side. So when you're making those turns onto or off of trails, you can actually see everything that you're turning into. That is the main focus and point of a ditch light these days. And so when we're making these brackets and we're making these for these type of vehicles, we're putting that into consideration. Normally these days, we don't really recommend straight facing light like they did back in the olden days with race cars when they wanted that eye-level spot beams. That's not really the case these days. So what we recommend doing is putting a nice spread beam or a combo beam on whichever lights you're running on that A-pillar position. For this vehicle, we're actually putting FlexAir 3s with the combo beams on here. The reason we're doing FlexAir 3s instead of more powerful FlexAir 4s is because we're pairing this with a bumper mounted light bar. This is gonna have a 20-inch FlexAir light bar up front mounted really, really low below the headlights. That's gonna be where most of the lighting from this vehicle is actually gonna be coming from. So this is gonna be complementary lighting. This is gonna be some additional lighting for the FlexAir bar up front. With that being said, we don't need something as powerful as a FlexAir 4. FlexAir 3 or even FlexAir 1s are gonna serve great for some complementary lighting to be paired with that FlexAir light bar mounted up front. All right, guys, and that's everything you need to know about ditch lights for your 4th gen Ford Ranger. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any other questions about how to install them, what they're used for, anything like that, please leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to get to it. Or if you need any additional help, our customer service team is always available. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you guys in the next one.